Many important biological molecules are made of repeating subunits, called monomers. When many monomers join, the result is a polymer. For example, amino acid monomers join to form a protein polymer, and glucose monomers combine to form a complex carbohydrate polymer. Biological polymers form by dehydration synthesis reactions. As you can see here, each of the monomers in this reaction has a hydrogen, or H, and a hydroxyl, or OH group. In the course of the reaction, the hydrogen is removed from one monomer and the hydroxyl group from the other. The hydrogen and hydroxyl group combine to form water, and a bond links the two monomers. Hydrolysis is the opposite of a dehydration synthesis reaction. During a hydrolysis reaction, a polymer is reduced to its monomer subunits by the addition of water. In fact, the word hydrolysis literally means to break water. The hydroxyl group from a water molecule attaches to one monomer, and the remaining hydrogen attaches to the other monomer. In other words, water is used to break the bond holding monomers together. Let's do a quick recap. During dehydration synthesis, monomers join to form polymers, and water is released. The opposite happens during hydrolysis, where water is added to the reaction to break a polymer into monomers.
Alright, welcome to another edition of Honors Biology Flipped Classroom. This is Mr. P. We are going to talk about organic compounds today, or organic molecules, specifically carbohydrates. You just saw a video that outlines the idea of monomers and polymers. It also talked about the building and breaking down of those monomers and polymers, and we're going to talk about dehydration synthesis and hydrolysis. Those are two vocab terms. You're going to see a lot of vocabulary words in this short video, and so make sure you're studying vocab. Vocab quiz isn't too far away. But let's get started. When you hear the term organic compounds, you need to start thinking about compounds or molecules that contain carbon, and specifically carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Some organic compounds like amino acids and proteins are going to contain nitrogen as well. But for the most part, organic compounds have to contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen in a certain predefined amount. Okay. Macromolecule is another name for organic molecule, so you're going to see interchangeably used organic molecule and macromolecule. But these organic molecules are large complex chains, which brings in this idea of monomer and polymers. Okay, monomer and polymer can be thought of as kind of like a pearl necklace, where if you look at individual pearls on that necklace, those would all be considered monomers, because they're all singular subunits that, when put together on a string, makes the whole necklace, which is a pearl necklace. Okay. Again, you're going to see the theme structure dictates function. There are certain functions that all organic molecules must possess, specifically today's carbohydrates. And so carbohydrates' function is to store short-term energy, or carbohydrates that store short-term energy in the monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides are structured to allow them to store lots of energy for the short term. Okay. Monomers, we talked about what they are. They are put together and building. They build polymers by dehydration synthesis. Okay, so you saw in that video what that process is. And big molecules like polysaccharides and like polymers are broken down by hydrolysis. Remember, hydrolysis, like the video said, is splitting water between two monomers in order to give one monomer that hydroxide ion or hydroxide and the other monomer the hydrogen. Okay, so what exactly is a carbohydrate? Carbohydrates are built of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen in a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio. Okay, so if you were to count up all the atoms that make up this glucose, or count up all the atoms that make this fructose, all of the carbohydrates would have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen in a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio. And when you look at monosaccharides, the chemical composition is C6H12O6. Okay, they're called carbohydrates, again, because they contain carbon, but they don't only contain carbon. They contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and it's in a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio. I know when you look at glucose, or the chemical composition of glucose, C6H12O6 is not a 1 to 2 to 1, it's a 6 to 12 to 6. But if you simplify 6, 12, 6, it simplifies down to 1 to 2 to 1. Okay? Again, monosaccharides, mono is a prefix that means one, and so one sugar saccharide, it's a simple sugar, and so these monosaccharide examples would be glucose, fructose, or galactose. Okay, and you're going to need to know those names. All three of those monosaccharides have the exact same chemical composition, which is C6H12O6. We build larger sugars by putting a glucose and glucose together, or a fructose and glucose together, or a fructose and galactose together, but we put those two monosaccharides together via dehydration synthesis, which again, as you recall, or if you recall, is removing water. Okay, you're dehydrating the sugars by removing water, just like you'd be dehydrated. Okay, if you remove water, you're removing water. You're going to remove an oxygen from one. You're going to remove an OH from another, and you're going to stick them together by creating that bond. Okay, here are the disaccharide examples. Disaccharide is a 2 monosaccharide sugar, or kind of a double sugar. You put 2 monosaccharides together via dehydration synthesis. You can see that that's what is being shown to you right here. We have a glucose plus glucose. We remove an oxygen and a hydrogen from one side, that's a hydroxide, and we remove one hydrogen from the other side, which leaves this oxygen that needs to bond, and so we create this bond right here, which links the two sugars, the two simple sugars together. Okay, that's dehydration synthesis. We're linking one monomer with another monomer to create a dimer, or in this case, you're linking a monosaccharide with another monosaccharide to produce a disaccharide. Make sure you know the 3 examples of disaccharides. They would be sucrose, lactose, maltose. Sucrose is probably familiar to you. That's table sugar. A lot of times you'll hear sucrose talked about or discussed. Lactose is the sugar that is found in mammals. Okay, that is the milk sugar. If you're lactose intolerant, that's your body has the inability to digest and break down this lactose. And then maltose is a sugar that's plant-based, but it's the type of sugar that's found in chocolate malt, which is different, if you've ever had one, than a chocolate shake, which would be made with sucrose. Okay, so just those 2 things right there can kind of tell you the difference. And then we get into polysaccharides, and if you know anything about prefixes, the word or prefix poly means many, and so we're adding many or several monosaccharides together, and you can see these examples over here. Starch, glycogen, cellulose are 3 examples of polysaccharides that you absolutely have to know. And if you look at all these individual rings, those are the individual monosaccharides, in this case glucose, that make up these long chains or long pearl necklaces, so to speak, of these monomers. And in this case it's starch. Starch is a functional polysaccharide that is used to store energy short term only in plants. Glycogen is the polysaccharide that is used to store short-term energy in animals. Okay, so there's a difference. Both of these in kind of this pinky color are used as a functional polysaccharide, and so they're both going to be used to store short-term energy in the short term. The one in green right here it looks different. See how these are just kind of long chains of carbohydrates or long chains of monosaccharides that have been linked together via dehydration synthesis? This one looks more like a spider web and is bigger and it's more fibrous. And so cellulose, as you recall, is a structural polysaccharide and it's only found in plant cell walls. Now, animal cells don't have cellulose because we don't have cell walls. Okay? Every single one of these examples are polysaccharides, and every single one of these examples is made up of repeated subunits, in this case monosaccharides, which have been linked together via dehydration synthesis to produce a large, complex polysaccharide. Okay? Monosaccharide is 1, disaccharide is 2, polysaccharide is 3 or more, okay, or several. The 3 examples of monosaccharides, glucose, fructose, galactose. The 3 disaccharide examples, maltose, sucrose, lactose. And the 3 polysaccharides examples would be starch, glycogen, both functional, and cellulose, structural. Okay, that's going to wrap it up today. Have a good day.